On September 3rd.
Okay,
Is
here
this
we
an
go.
Iran map video?
Let's see what full screen this. I can't see. I've been deceived. Okay.
13th, a woman named Mahsa Amini was detained by Iran's morality police for improperly wearing her hijab. She was loaded into a van where she was reportedly beaten and then transferred to a detention center where she collapsed and fell into a coma.
No, hang on.
3 days later,
guys, your details are wrong. She was beaten before she was put into the van, and her head was slammed against the van. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Didn't she die on the way?
No. No. So she goes in through processing, and like you can see, like she's pointing at her legs going numb, which is a sign of like a brain bleed and stuff. But there's like
yeah.
You can't tell how much time passes between the cuts, and like the only thing you can tell is like who's in the chairs, right? So you can see there's a clear cut, and like all new people are in the chairs, and then there's like a service door to the left here that they're going in and out of, and like the one shot they show of that hallway is a fucking disaster. So it's like they must have like dragged her into that hallway, and then like But there's another girl who's they just killed too, right?
Again, another one, like recently?
Yeah, so they basically didn't take her off life support and just like are keeping her as of like a vegetable or something. They might have finally let her die, but like they basically like didn't let her die just to avoid protests.
Jesus Christ.
Same thing happened to her.
At the hospital, and protests broke out. As a result, Iran shut down the country's internet, but hundreds of social media posts of people protesting her death have surfaced over the last 3 months, including videos of women defiantly cutting their hair, the symbol of beauty the regime wants hidden under the hijab. The so-called morality police patrol the streets to enforce the regime's strict dress code. They mostly target women and how they wear the hijab, and will either find them or arrest them and take them to detention centers.
Okay, Vox. Again, don't know what you're fucking talking about, okay? This is like in the Iran episode we have coming out. This is one of the things she says is like this is like one of the key pieces of misinformation, that they're just like fashion police. They're not. They're not just fashion police. They are literally criminal gangs that work for the regime. They can do whatever they want, whenever they want. They sell drugs. A lot of them are like Hezbollah. They're obsessed with motorcycles, so they ride their motorcycles around. Like these are like a criminalized police force that is under the IRGC. It also has nothing to do with the police. The other, like doing a branch from the police, that's so no. It's IRGC. It's completely separate from the police. The police exist within the government. The Ayatollah is above the government. It's a completely different, separate section of the state. Okay, anyway, Fox is wrong.
They are one part of the repressive state apparatus that wields power over Iranians, but far from the only one.
Bro, oh my God, you have to go back.
Videos of the
You have to go back to that fucking graph when it zooms out. You're gonna love it. Bro, armed forces, IRGC, morality police are in the arm. They're literally, that's them. They literally have it on the graph twice.
That's so funny. Holy shit.
That morality police. They're the same fucking thing.
Oh my God.
Jesus Christ. I didn't even see it at first. I just saw IRGC and I was like, oh my God. This is like not at all how the system in Iran works. Who gave him this graphic?
Who got their information? That is appalling. Oh my God. Vox,
look,
everyone.
Iranian people are at the bottom.
We're from the only one. In videos of the protests, we can see different armed groups violently suppressing the protests. Understanding who they might be tells us a lot about the power structure Iranians are fighting to change. In the 1970s, Iran was a secular monarchy that operated as a dictatorship. Under the Shah, Iranians lacked political freedoms but enjoyed social ones. They also experienced economic growth that rapidly transformed Iran from a traditional conservative society to an industrial modernized one. Soon, economic frustrations and political repression sparked uprisings calling for new Islamic rule. They went on for a year, but the regime remained in place until a crucial turning point. the army declared neutrality. It was then that the monarchy collapsed and gave way to the Islamic Republic that rules today. But that neutrality that allowed the regime to come to power was also
You
one
wanna
of its
pause it?
biggest weaknesses.
The
Yeah,
revolutionaries.
just like, okay, so first of all, it's not terrible.
Mhm.
Technically everything they said there was basically correct. So I was like, I'm just trying to think if I was to summarize what happened in as little details as possible, if I'd make the same cuts out of the story that they did. And that's I just like, I think one of the important parts of the army standing down is that they weren't ordered to stand down or anything. It's like, you remember it's the legend of like how Cortez like beats an Aztec king because he comes out to greet him and he kills him, and the army can only listen to the king, so there was no like structure. I don't know if this is true, but this is like a thing that they say, right?
It's like the myth.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the Shah was literally like 2 months later died of cancer. Like he was in
Okay.
America dying of cancer. He just didn't care.
Yeah.
He didn't care anymore. So it's not so much that the army and the police stood down, it's that they weren't ordered to repress the people, so they didn't.
Mm. Yeah.
And then other stuff happened, but
Yeah.
it's fine. We have an episode about it that you can watch. They'll
Did
probably be
not
out
trust.
by the time this is edited, so.
Yeah.
The army, which was supposed to be loyal to the Shah, but stabbed them in the back. The best strategy was to hedge their bets by creating a branch of armed forces that they could trust much more than the army.
Under the supreme leader's rule, the regime kept the old army.
That's funny.
But created a separate military group called...
So like one of the best parts in the Iran episode we have is that she sends me a video and she's like, you got to listen to this.
Okay.
And the way he says it, it's like it's very open about how they're basically like the vanguard, type thing.
Mm.
And she was like, so she's like, just starts joking like, this guy was never seen again, like you cannot be honest about what this is in Iran.
The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. This group was crucial in the long war Iran fought against Iraq.
The Revolutionary Guard played an important role in trying to push back the Iraqi army, and after that, they managed to turn that political capital into economic influence and political power.
As their importance grew, so did their domestic security role, which sometimes meant fighting against the people. Videos verified by Human Rights Watch show armed forces beating protesters, using assault weapons, and men dressed in black riding motorcycles and firing guns into crowds. These men dressed in black fit the description of the Basij, a paramilitary volunteer militia under the IRGC.
It's these guys, the morality police is in this division box.
That's fiercely loyal to the supreme leader.
Primarily, it was a force that was created in order to do social control.
In September, Amnesty International obtained documents showing the armed forces instructed their chain of command to severely confront protesters, and a local commander ordering security forces to confront mercilessly while going as far as causing deaths. As a result, human rights groups say at least 18,000 protesters have been arrested, and at least 250 have been killed, including more than 60 children. And now, Iran has started carrying out executions.
I don't even know what I was saying
so many
about.
protesters are out on the
just
street.
let it go. There's something about the structure in there. Like,
is that Iran's power structure
Huh?
No, I don't know.
Doesn't give them any alternatives. Just like the armed forces are a pillar of the Islamic Republic, there are several others supporting the country's power structure. These are just a few of them.
This is what the fact that they came back to this fucking graph, that's fucking awful. Oh, okay. Iran has two systems. Some people who are more familiar with Saddam might be like how he had like 3 different specialist guards because he was so scared of being couped, right?
Mm.
The IRGC exists to prevent the military from coupping the supreme leader. The supreme leader exists above the state, but like he can just tell the state what to do, but in theory he doesn't. He He only functions with the IRGC type stuff. Now, Iran has a democratic system in place. It's just that they don't get to choose their candidates, basically. It's like a fake democracy. But enough of that structure is there that you can just kill the Ayatollah. He's going to die soon anyway. Outlaw the IRGC, hold snap elections, and you'd have literally up to date with how Ukraine is. It would be just as it would be that far forward of a slingshot. Like they would have as much democracy Ukraine had after 2014 if they just did that. So when the supreme leader dies, this will be a turning point in Iran, and that's why I continually say like Iran is, in my opinion, the one that's most likely going to be the next big government to like turn over.
It's a fair bet.
It could still be any government, there could be one that comes out of nowhere, but I think Iran is like your surefire bet. The supreme leader has to
Most
die.
likely, yeah.
Something's going to happen. The burnt generation is like 70% of the country now. Like it just has the conditions perfect for revolution.
Yes.
Which is honestly why I'm surprised it didn't happen after this one. And
yes, yeah, it would have been very likely.
I wish the United States backed people like people think they do.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear them explain this poorly more.
And while some should be independent, they aren't.
This includes Iran's legislative branch, because while these government bodies are technically elected, they are controlled by the regime's appointed guardian council.
Yep.
That means the regime can disqualify candidates and reject laws that go through parliament, overriding the will of the people.
The unelected
this style of government is actually called Khomeiniism. And
really?
Yeah, so Afghanistan would try to basically model their Mujahideen governments after it. So Massoud, they called him a Khomeinian because he basically said, we'll support other religions, but if you're going to run, you have to be like, Muslim Islamic, is what we would prefer. Yeah. But he basically explained like how he sees a democratic society, and he explained why a council is important, It's not necessarily like a bad thing to like have some, like we have electors as well, technically. That's the thing is like you really just need to get rid of the supreme leader.
That's what it seems like.
You'd have corruption and those leftovers in the government, and like like a Myanmar situation where it could turn back and forth. That could be very likely to happen depending on how much of those hardliners are in government. But generally, if these government officials know that they get to keep their jobs and keep like embezzling from the system and not really face consequences for like a lot of their stuff, then you'll be in really good shape, because then you won't have people kind of like working against you. You have to kind of like allow, and that's how Ukraine was, Ukraine was smart not cracking down on corruption until they needed to, It kept like counter coups from happening.
Stymied and sabotaged those reforms, and that has created a sense of despondency within the society.
So in the last 20 years, Iranians have taken to the streets at an increasing rate against electoral fraud.
I'm so glad they're talking. We should really. Okay. That's the thing is, it's like when this started, I was like, I really hope they talk about the Green March or the Green Revolution is what it's called, is when this like action started.
Okay.
And we talk about it in our episode. So if they don't cover it in this Vox video, guess where you can learn about it.
You have to put it in the description.
And again today. Soon after Amini's death, a video of her funeral went viral.
Money.
Women took off their hijabs and the crowd started chanting. And the chants have taken hold all over the country.
Usually the pattern of the protests in the past 10, 15 years in Iran is that they often start with much more narrower objectives or demands. But this time around, almost from the get-go, the 0 to 100 happened overnight, and immediately there were calls for regime change.
But the system they are trying to change was built to suppress
not
dissent
regime change.
and protect power.
Get rid of the regime. That's what. Bye-bye regime, not change. Goodbye regime.
Elimination.
Yeah. Also, people, you can learn this more about this in the episode, but Iran is actually technically majority secular, because now the Shia that's mandated only has 32% of the population surveyed, And if you add up like agnostic, atheist, spiritual, none, like all those other categories and stuff, it's like 33 something. Like it's just slightly larger. So technically it's the majority now. Iran is a secular country. It's more secular than America, that's for sure.
It's pretty interesting.
The only country I've seen as secular is New Zealand.
Fair?
New Zealand has like more secular. It has like 8 religions.
Yeah.
All diversed out.
Or at the top.
The idea of having multiple power centers and parallel institutions is for the regime to hedge its bets. None of these individual elements can, on their own, pose a threat to the pinnacle of power in Iran.
Making it nearly impossible to topple
Qasem
such a
Soleimani could have taken over the country easily if he wanted to. And the president right now is going to take over the supreme leadership when he dies. That's the whole reason why they forced him into presidency to begin with.
Forced him in?
As in, the people didn't have a choice. So like, the guy before was, they kind of didn't hate him as much as Reese's Pieces. He's literally he's the right hand, and Soleimani was the left hand. They are like, that trio at the top is really like who's running around all these years, is that trio, not just the Ayatollah.
Okay.
So,
and either one of them could take over at any point. Is that the idea?
There's no point for Reese's Pieces to topple the regime. The regime's going to die anyway, like any day now. So, and when he dies, he gets it. It's just inevitable. Because he's in the structure where he's in the presidential power, he can basically crown himself emperor once the supreme leader dies.
What happens then?
That's when I think shit will start kicking off. If it doesn't, if the regime survives until then. I think the people of Iran might not lynch him like Gaddafi.
Okay.
They might exile. I'm talking about Reese's Pieces. The Ayatollah, they'd probably just like beat him to death right there on the street, even if it was by mistake. He's just so old. Definitely, they would kill Qasem Soleimani if they caught him in the street. Reese's Pieces, they might like basically run him out of the country and exile him, like how Come On Me was exiled by the Shah.
Okay. Fun times ahead.
Power structure.
The fact that there is now no longer any hopes in the possibility of reforming the system from within, it has created a situation in which the younger generation of Iranians increasingly believe that they
reform from within. No, you just kill the Ayatollah guy. This guy is such a fucking. They're so good. They're so good. They tell you these little lies so you don't even understand how your own government works. You know, these little lies. Fuck. This guy's not real.
Holy shit.
Most of the protesters are young Iranians who were born after the revolution and inherited a system they didn't ask for. Despite the censorship, young Iranians have caught the world's attention. Schoolgirls are filming themselves replacing portraits of the supreme leader with the words woman, life, freedom, setting their hijabs on fire. And
I wonder where that came from.
They're not going to say it. They're not going to say it.
No, of course
it's okay. We cover it in the episode.
We do.
Dude,
I think we've also got other ones about it.
Think about this. You know how Israel loves to claim it's the only democracy in the Middle East, which is horseshit because Turkey's technically a democracy as well. Turkey is Middle Eastern. This whole thing, like Israel is the sovereign democracy in the Middle East. Imagine if Iran knocked out all they have to do, outlaw the IRGC from the country. The IRGC can go take
that
over
would solve
Iraq.
Pretty much everything,
Go take over Iraq. You already basically control it anyway, right? Just get them out. Just tell them to go out.
Yeah.
But the thing is that it's like I unironically would support like America like just dumping guns into rebels' hands there to like overthrow a government. Like I would love a Gaddafi situation to happen there because it's just like I said, it could be like very like split, like how Myanmar is, but generally like Iran would be another democracy in the Middle East. I don't know why. I don't know why we tried Iraq.
Yeah, seems like
because that's right. Because he was a liability. That's why I forgot. That's right. Loose ends. You know.
Facing pro-regime educators out of their schools.
The current situation is the product of the Islamic Republic's failures over the years. The Islamic Republic failed to create a country in which the youth could see a future for themselves. It's really as simple as that.
Yeah, not wrong, really. At the end there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust that guy, though. I was like, this probably isn't good. I'm surprised at that one. I was like, this probably isn't going to get anything good out of me.